Yeah, the title's not lying. I almost died. Before you go jumping to any conclusions, no, it was not cool. It was not like, oh, I got mugged, or oh, someone was trying to do something, or I got almost hit by a truck or something. No, it was a lot more boring and stupid. I wouldn't say boring, but it was a lot more stupid. It was very stupid what happened. And I'll give you a little hint. What saved me was a cell phone company. I'll let you simmer on that to think about what could have possibly happened. But literally, if it weren't for this cell phone company, which will be named which will be named later in the video, I would be dead right now. Well, not would be. I might be. You know. But anyways, grab a snack, maybe a drink, put me on your other monitor while you put me in the background and do something else. And relax, because oh boy, do I have a story to tell. So, for those of you who are in the know, a couple of weeks ago, went trail biking for the very first time. For a video, for my series that I'm doing where I'm making a video every day for the month of July, you should go check that video out, but either way, I went biking for the first time. And a couple days ago, I wanted to go again. That is kind of what set into motion this entire story. So, because I wanted to go biking, I decided to just go biking. I wanted to go for a couple hours and just packed up one morning and went. First, we have blunder number one. Blunder number one is that I didn't tell anybody. My mom was still asleep. My entire family was still asleep. I didn't tell any friends. Nobody knew where I was going. I was going just on a whim that morning. Then we have blunder number two. I only packed this 24-ounce bottle of water. I am in Florida, going into a forest in the middle of the nearly 100-degree summer that we are currently having. That is a big blunder to make. Now, typically, I'm used to this guy being able to last me for quite a big chunk of the day. This is typically 1/3 of my daily water that I take in. But whenever you go biking for hours on end, 24 ounces of water simply ain't gonna cut it. It's not. Flat out. Speaking of, this is your cue to drink water. I imagine you probably haven't drank water in a minute, so go do that. I didn't tell anybody, and I didn't bring water. All I had was I did bring water, just not enough of it, as you'll find out later. So I packed my bike up into my car, and I headed out to the trails. And I went biking, and whenever I showed up, I immediately knew something was off. Something was different. You see, whenever I went biking for the first time, it was bustling. There were a lot of people. It didn't take long for us to find people whenever we went biking for the first time, but this was my second time biking, and it was my first time doing it alone. And there weren't a lot of people. This was a Saturday. This was on a weekend. I would have thought that the middle of the day on a Saturday would have been the time that it was most busy. But it was not. There were like 3 cars there, and I can count on one hand the amount of people that I saw while in the trail. It's 2. I saw 2 people the entire time while in the trail. And I was there for over 2 hours. So that should tell you something. We're gonna fast forward through the first hour of it, because the first hour of it was pretty uneventful. I was just going around, exploring a bunch of different trails, biking around, having a good time. Everything was going normal, according to plan. It was hot, I was sweaty, but that's what I was expecting. That's what I had signed up for. But after an hour in, I had gone through a particularly difficult trail. One that's probably like 2 or so minutes long, and it has a lot of ups and downs, a lot of bumps and turns and hills, and has a couple of wood features. Pretty difficult, but not too difficult. It's just physically demanding. And afterwards, I was a little hot and sweaty and winded, so I got off of that trail, hopped off my bike, and took off my glasses. And I took them off in order to wipe my face with my shirt because I was drenched. It is very hot. I don't know if you've ever experienced the middle of a forest in the middle of a humid summer day in Florida. It is hell. Like, the entirety of my body, every square inch was soaked. Like, major swamp ass. It was bad. But anyways, while I had my glasses off, I was walking around in order to try to calm down my heart rate, to kind of walk it off, if you will. And while I was walking around with my glasses off, I am very blind with my glasses, as it turns out. That's kind of why I need my glasses. But because I couldn't see, because they were off, I walked right into a spider web. Now, I didn't see anything, I just felt the spider web, and I was like, spider web, get off me. And I didn't really think much of it. I then walked around for a couple minutes more, just trying to lower my heart rate, drink some water, and calm down. And, well, after 2 minutes, I saw a massive spider web, absolutely huge, and it had one of the biggest spiders that I have ever seen. Like, this was like the size of my hand. I don't know what spider it was either. I had never seen it before. It was like white and red, I think, and it was like the size of my hand, maybe my palm. The hand might be overdoing it, but it was a big spider, probably one of the biggest I've seen. And I was like, man, I can't believe I just walked into a spider web. And something else about the spider web, it was really weird. It was strangely sticky and green. I have no idea what that means about the spider, but I had never seen that before. So seeing that, and then seeing the massive spider I had never seen before, made me think, well, I'm glad that there was no spider on the end of the web I walked into. Well, now what if there was a spider on the end of the web I walked into? So I had that voice in the back of my head telling me, hey, listen, you never really checked if you actually didn't have a spider on the end of that spider web. So I took off my backpack, and then I turned it around, and I see on the top of my backpack, inches away from the back of my head and now mere inches from the front of my face, giant spider, the same exact kind. It was even bigger than the one that I had saw on a different spider web, just inches from my face. The reaction that I had, priceless. I wish I had gotten that on video. That would have been amazing. However, I did not, unfortunately. But I dropped my backpack, screamed like you would not believe, and ran a solid 3 yards, took off my shirt, like just ripped it off. There was nobody. So I didn't care. There's not like there's people who are gonna be disturbed or bothered by my shirtless self. There's no one around. And I was just sat there freaking out in the woods by myself with a spider that was just inches away from my head. And this spider was something that I had never seen before. So naturally, I was a little bit freaked out. Now, this is not the near-death story. This is just a little bonus. That was a little bonus story. Congratulations. You got a little bit of a teaser. Not a teaser, but like a bonus. That's the word I'm looking for. You got bonus content. You came here for near-death, and you got a little spider freak out. If only I got that on video. But either way, that spider thing had me on edge for the rest of the day. I wasn't quite done yet. I kept on going into the trails, naturally a little on edge. And after another 30 minutes or so, I was like, you know what? I think it's been long enough. I should probably start heading back pretty soon. So I start going back out. I leave to go onto a road that connects back to the place that I had parked instead of having to bike through the trails in order to get back. And I saw a sign that said, Ken's Corner this way. Now, in case you didn't watch the biking video, let me fill you in on what Ken's Corner is. Now, Caden, the person who had taken me to bike for my first time, had told me about Ken's Corner, and he described it in a way that sounded really fun and enjoyable. So I was like, you know what? It's probably not that far. Why don't I just take a little detour, go try it out, and then call it from there? So that is where I have blunder number 3. I make the assumption that it can't be that far and decide to go down Ken's Corner. Or not, I decided to go towards Ken's Corner. I wasn't on Ken's Corner yet. I had to go through a different trail to get to it. But either way, So I'm like, how far can it be? It's not that far. So I'm biking. I'm like, it can't be that much further. And I'm biking some more. And I'm like, well, this is strange. There's no sign of anything. Keep biking. And it's like, well, it can't be that much further. I've been biking for quite a while. And I keep biking. It's been a mile now. It's been a mile of biking. And still, no sign of Ken's Corner. And I come up to a checkpoint. It has a bench. There's a bench there. And you can either keep going straight, and off to that little inlet where the bench is, there's another path that is labeled Twister. And I'm like, okay, where's Ken's Corner? So I'm just really confused. But after that mile, I was a little tired, a little winded. So I sit down on the bench and I drink my water, and I'm like, I'm out of water. Dang. Well, I guess I should probably head back now. Darn, I was really wanting to go on Ken's Corner. So I'm sat there thinking to myself, what's the fastest way to get back? I'm not sure. This is where blunder number 4 comes in, because I didn't use a map. I didn't consult one because I'm stupid. I don't know why. I just didn't think in that moment that I should, look up a map of the place to, see where I'm going. I'm just going in completely blind, and I am thinking to myself, well, if I keep going, there's a good chance that I just run into a different exit, because there are a lot of different exits that go out onto roads, and I can then travel back from there instead of having to travel the whole mile back and then travel another 1.5 miles back to my car. I thought that there might have been a faster way, more efficient way to get to an exit. So I decided to then make my 5th blunder of going down Twister. Now, this was probably the worst decision of the entire day that I had made. Going down Twister. This was the nail that put in the metaphorical coffin. I'm still going down there with that mindset of how far can it be? Because I am also thinking, if I turn back now, I'm gonna have to go all the way back, and I'm gonna have to do a lot of backtracking. But at the same time, I had this little voice in the back of my head of, well, if I keep going, and I do end up having to turn back around, that's just more ground that I have to cover and make back up. So I'm sat here battling, should I keep going? Should I turn back now? What should I do? What should I do? And super secret third option, look at a map, didn't come up into my brain for whatever reason. So I just kept on going for some reason. So I keep going. How much further could it be? I keep going. And fast forward 1.5 miles. Now, I say that with heaviness because 1.5 miles on a trail is a lot different from 1.5 miles on a road. Because on a trail, you're not able to go as fast. It's not smooth road. It's twists and turns and a bunch of hills and bumps, and there's tons of different roots in the ground. I couldn't think of the word, but it was very difficult. And on top of that, 1.5 miles through difficult terrain with 0 water in the Florida heat. I was very tired. So at this point, I have a little thought come into my head, a little memory from when Caden had taken me biking. And that memory was Caden saying that there was a 25-mile trail nearby. And that thought made me shit my pants. Not literally, but the idea that I might be on a 25-mile trail right now is like, what am I doing? Am I being stupid? Am I being so stupid right now? So I then finally get the idea, oh my god, I should just use a map. So I then whip out my phone, and I had that split second of, oh my god, am I gonna have service? And this is where the cell phone company that saved my life comes into play, because I shit you not, I was in an area where this area is notorious for having no cell phone usage, no coverage at all, no data. You can't make calls, you can't make texts for all except one cell phone provider. T-Mobile, which my dad just so happens to have me on. And oh boy, am I thankful for it, because had I not been on T-Mobile, I wouldn't have been able to look up a map which then influenced my decision because I was about to turn back. If I had not had access to a map, I would have had to turn back, and I'll explain why that would have been so detrimental in a second. And on top of that, I wouldn't have been able to call anybody in the event of a dire emergency. So this is the situation that we were dealing with, and fortunately, I was able to pull up a map. And whenever I pull up my map, I see that I am in the bumfuck middle of a 3-mile trail. Either way I go, I'm screwed. If I keep going the way I'm going, it's another 1.5 miles before I see anything. But had I turned around, I would have been another 1.5 miles before I'd gotten back to the checkpoint, and then another mile to get back to the road, where I would have been pooped out into a road where there probably wouldn't have been a single living soul. But if I keep going straight, I would have been put into a little parking area where there would have been more likely to be people. So, thankfully, I had gotten the map, which gave me the only reason that I had to keep going forward. Because if it were not for that, I would have turned around and would have had to cover an extra mile, and again, for more reasons that will be explained later, would have been really detrimental. But now I know. Now there's none of this ambiguous, hazy nothingness that's in my brain of just like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. I know that I have 1.5 miles to go. So I go. I start going, I start biking, and I'm just putting the pedal to the metal. And after about 1 mile of this, the 2.5 miles that I had biked without water had finally started to catch up with me. And I nearly blacked out. My vision went blank for a solid 5 seconds. I got really dizzy. I nearly had a Charlie horse, and I was this close to passing out. And this is where everything from the start starts to come into play. I told no one where I was going. There was nobody here. Who knew? Who knows how long it would have been before somebody stumbled upon my unconscious body? Who knows? I could have been there for hours. I could have been there for minutes. It is completely I don't know how long I would have been there had I passed out. That was only with 1.5 miles. Imagine if I had that extra mile to get back. I had to just walk the rest of the way back. But I keep walking back, and I only have a 0.5 mile left, so I'm walking back, and after that 0.5 mile, I'm like, where is the exit? I literally scream out because I think I'm still in the middle of the woods, and like 10 steps later, I walk out and I see the arch of the parking area that I was trying to get to, and I fall to my knees in pure joy. I had never experienced something as happy as that, because finally I had seen salvation. There was a hope that there were people there that I could ask for water, because I knew at this point I needed water desperately. I had just traveled 3 miles of hot trail with not a drop of water. I was so beyond dehydrated, it's not even funny. I had gotten unimaginably close to death. And fortunately, I had gotten out into the parking place, and there were people there who, fortunately enough, had some water that they were able to give me. It wasn't much, but it was just enough to get me to get that 1.5 miles to get back to the place that I had parked at. And fortunately, I had biked through that, and it was on road too, so it wasn't through a trail. It was road, pretty simple, 1.5 miles, not too terrible, but my legs were still completely obliterated, still really dehydrated. It was not pleasant, but it was a lot more pleasant with a little bit of water in my system and not having to go through a trail. But I get back to there, and I'm biking up, and I see a water fountain, and oh my goodness, I had never been so unimaginably happy to see a grimy water fountain before. I bike up as fast as I can. I practically crash into the thing, and I I push in the button and I start drinking the water, and I'm just sat there inhaling as much water as I possibly can for like a solid minute straight. Never in my life has 90-degree water ever tasted so good. I drank so much of that water that I nearly threw up. It was a lot. But thankfully, I had water now. I was in civilization, I had water, and I was at my car. Everything was normal. Everything was fine. But so much could have gone wrong. So much could have gone wrong. Like, what if I didn't have T-Mobile? What if I had some other provider and I ended up being completely boned over and didn't have cell service? What if I had decided to turn back that would have led me to turning back the other way, and then I would have maybe passed out and not been able to make it and died. There's really no telling what could have happened if everything that happened didn't happen. But I mean, like, I guess that's for any situation, but things could have ended so much worse. I mean, I got home without headache. I was fine. I mean, obviously I'm here, still making videos. What's the moral of the story? There's 3 of them. Bring water, use a map, and tell people where you're going. For the love of God, tell people where you're going. That, if nothing else, tell people where you're going. And just be smart about things. I was not smart about any of this. So that's what led to me almost dying. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little story time. Also, if you're wondering why I'm doing this, and I have been doing this all video, I have a bad sweating condition. My bad, gang. I don't really know how to do it. Deodorant doesn't help. Antiperspirant doesn't help. This video was a little bit different. I hope you enjoyed it, though. This is typically the part where I would say roll the outro, but I feel like with how this video is going to be structured, I feel like that would be really bad whiplash, so I'm not going to do that to you guys. I mean, if you want to see better content than this, and it is like actual real content more than just the story time, then check out the stuff down below. Hello? I don't know. I just thought I would share this with you guys. This is also a nice break from the mountains of effort that I'm putting into all of my other videos, because who knew that 6 hours of editing for a single video whenever you're making 31 in a month? It's a little bit of demand on top of the filming and planning for everything else. So this is a nice break. This is very tame. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Or not. I mean, you could just stop watching these at any given moment, but I'll see you tomorrow. If you're cool. You're cool, right? You're cool, right? You're cool. You're a cool person, right? You're cool. If you're cool, you'll stick around. Dude, I'm so fucking stupid.